Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's HxGN Hacks session. My name is Rebecca, and I'll be kicking things off before we jump into our presentation for today. If you are new to HxGN Hacks, each Wednesday we bring a fast-paced 15-minute session with practical tips and hidden features to help you get the most out of Hexagon EAM. If you ever miss a session, no need to worry. All of the recordings are available on the Digital Thinker YouTube channel. I will go ahead and put a link in the meeting chat. If you simply search for HxGN Hacks, you'll be able to view all of the videos, and they're also grouped into playlists based on the topics that are presented. So we are currently in our maintenance mastery series. Looking ahead, we'll be shifting to system admin hacks on October 29th, and then wrapping up the year with sessions on mobile and field productivity. With that, we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to hand it over to Jordan, who's going to walk us through today's topic. Hey, Jordan.
Hey, Rebecca, thank you.
Yes.
If you just go to the next slide there, if you don't mind. Perfect. Okay. So today we're going to talk about work order types. So you can kind of look at today as maybe a little bit of an overview of work order types, maybe a little bit of um, looking at how you can go ahead and clean those up. Maybe you have a couple different user groups where maybe you only want, say, user group, maybe your system administrator to have access to all of your work order types, and maybe you have a maybe just someone who's submitting work requests, and you don't necessarily need them to have a list of 10, 12 different job types you want them to select. So we'll kind of talk about that, look at a little bit about the organization overview as well, just taking a look at how we can view job types on that screen as well. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and we'll dive right into EAM. All right, so y'all should see my screen of EAM. If you don't, just let me know. So the first thing I want to dive into are where you can find these work order types. So in our demo environment here, we can go to administration, setup, system codes, and then it's going to be under the types and JBTP. So you might hear me refer to these as job types. That's just me using another name for work order types. These are not to be confused with event types. Event types, maybe you might know about those if you're writing an inbox or maybe creating a Cognos report. Your two main event types are going to be job and PPM. That's going to be, job is going to be anything related to your work orders, and PPM is going to be anything related to PM specific work orders. Job types, so the JBTP entity is going to be anything that's going to fall under your work order type. And as you see here, there's going to be different system codes as well. The main system code you're going to use for the work order screen is your BR, kind of standing for breakdown, but you can also have, repairable spare, standing work order types, and then this is where your usually a PM specific work order type is going to be. So just want to give an overview of where these are going to show up. And then I also want to talk about two install parameters here. They're going to be JT off and then JT off LV. So in your normal state, and I'll just go to our work order screen because I'll be able to show, what a regular state would be. If I was going to go create a new work order, I have a list of these 9 different work order types here. So there's a couple that don't pop up from that screen, and that's just because they're not falling under that, breakdown, repairable spare, standing work order type, system type. So in a regular state with no setup kind of around it, this is what your type field is going to look like. If I go back to the install parameters, there's this JT auth LV. And some of for y'all, this is going to be turned on in your environment, and you may know exactly what I'm talking about here. But if I was to set this to yes, and then also set my lookup value to yes as well, what this is going to do is it's going to um, give me the list of work order types that I have associated to my user group. And then the LV install parameter is going to only give me those options in my lookup. So if I was to turn both of these on, they are going to be tied to my user group setup here and my work order authorizations. So I have 3 different examples here that I'll show. DTIA01 has a list of 5 work order types here. So if I was to turn on the JT auth install parameter, I'm only going to see these 5. And preventative maintenance, I would also say, is going to be tied to that PM type. So it may only really be the 4 that you're going to see in your lookup value. So you want to make sure your system code, this is going to have basically all those different types, but you're still only going to see the ones that are available for your work order screen under that BR, ST, RS repairable spare types. So this is a way to filter down the authorizations for a specific user group. So this is just one thing to remember. So this is also an additional setup. So it's an additional setup when you're creating user groups, that if you're creating one by scratch, if you're creating it just manually, you want to make sure that you bring over these work order types if you have that install parameter turned on. And that LV parameter right here, if that's set to yes, that is going to filter out these based off of what you have authorizations for on your user group. So usually if you have the JT auth turned on, you'll also want to have the lookup value authorization, the install parameter, that turned on as well for you. And one thing I want to point out there is you have this all statuses field, and then you have insert, update, delete. So not only is it authorizing you the ability to see and make changes to those work order types, it's also giving you can specify the ability to maybe create work orders of those types, update work orders, which would include, progressing statuses, closing it out, making any changes to the record view there once the record is created. And then you also have the ability to delete work orders. I know a lot of our customers' organizations, they might not have the delete turned on there or checked, just because you want to make sure you have record of your work orders at all times. So you'll have canceled out work orders, and if you have those types, you may not want to use the delete function there. But I'll take a look at this DTIA03. And you can also specify, in this case, specific statuses. So maybe I have someone who's a technician and they're doing work specifically on just preventative maintenance work orders. I can specify specific statuses that they can go in and update on. So the system will essentially lock down the work order unless it is in an assigned scheduled or an in progress status. So in these states, they can move the work order along. If it's not in this state, it locks it down. So you can do a lot of that too with just your status authorizations, but this is actually a way to really just lock down the screen as well. So wanted to show you those specific ones. And then here's one that, I hadn't really played around with much until the last few months. But say, for example, I want to have everything on my work order screen. As long as I have those authorizations set up, I want to have, all of these specific types for my work order screen. But maybe as an example, I have a user group or maybe multiple user groups that are creating work requests. And if I just go to my work request screen here, maybe I only want the ability to only have maybe two of these work order types on here. Maybe I want to have on my PM schedules when if I go to my PM schedules here as an example, maybe I want to only have the ability to have preventative maintenance show up on the screen. So because I have my authorizations turned on, I'm still going to see, whatever I have authorizations for. But maybe in this case, I don't want to have a selection of 8. I just want to have a selection of maybe 1 or 2 different work order types on here. One thing I can do, and I'll note that this is going to be a change for all user groups. So no matter what user group I'm saving in the screen designer, so I'm making changes to R5 admin. This change is going to happen for all user groups. So I can click into this work order type, and I can click define drop-down filter. And you'll see this where clause here, and you might look at it and say, I don't know how to write this, and it's actually real simple. You can take a look at this display SQL statement here, and it's using this DES underscore code here. So what I can do is if there's specific work order types that I want to show, maybe I have that, and this is going to be based off the user code on your system code screen. So I can do it where DES code is in, maybe it's the PM, and maybe for some people that's, PREV is the system code there. But you could have PM, maybe you want have the ability to maybe do a corrective one, and maybe that's COORR in your organization. And once I hit save, that's actually going to filter out those types again for me. So this is a good way too, that if you have, some really old job types that you can't really go and delete because they have, a system record against that job type, you can also use this drop-down filter to filter those down. So if I were to hit save and then go back to my PM schedule screen, I'm only going to see the work order types that have the user code of PM and CORR. And this is going to be, I'll say again, for all user groups. So even if you save it just to one user group, it's going to show for all user groups in its entirety. And that code that I was telling you all about too, I'll just show you that user code. So I was talking about a little bit about system codes earlier. You're going to want to put the code that is in this user code. So in my case, I brought up corrective and PM. I would want to put CO on here in that drop-down filter, and I would want to put PM for preventive maintenance. So last thing I'll show, and Rebecca's, she uses this in our DTI Academy and different webinars that she uses. So if I find the organization overview screen, and let me select the template that she's created. There we go. We have this work order types on the top here. So you can create these with SQL. You can also put maybe a chart on your start center. You can use the KPIs section as well on there. But just focusing on this work order type, if you are going through and taking a look at cleanup and maybe you're looking at this and saying, hey, I want to make sure that 70-80% of the work that's being done on work orders is preventative maintenance. Maybe I want to make sure that, hey, my breakdowns are very limited, along with maybe some of my corrective work orders. You can use a chart like this, and you can set this on your start center. You can use this equipment overview, to get an overall look of what are the different work order types that are being used, completed, and closed out. So just wanted to show you this as an example, just to give you an overview of what's exactly going on um, in your organization, and you can use this to maybe say, hey, we need to make sure that we've had 40 breakdown work orders. Let's take a look at those and see if there's anything that we can maybe add a couple extra preventive maintenance tasks to narrow some of those down. So um, with that being said, I'll just go ahead and share our last slide here. So either Rebecca or myself can send out the link tree for this in the chat. But just want to thank y'all for your time. Rebecca, I don't know if you want to close us out or say anything else, but yeah, it's pretty much all I have.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you, Jordan. I appreciate that overview, not just on work order types, but the work order type authorizations, which may be newer for some folks. So definitely something to consider. So thanks to everyone for joining. We hope you can join us next week. Tyler will actually be leading the conversation next week, and he'll be discussing closing codes in Hexagon EAM. So thanks everyone for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to stick them in the chat and we can follow up with you. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your week and we will see you next Wednesday.